Hey, let me start off with a bit of an editorial about prevention and rehabilitation programs, or pre-re programs as they're known. One of the main differences between pre-re programs and deterrence and incapacitation programs is the public's lack of vision. As you'll see in Chapter 24, rehabilitation and prevention programs take time to work. Deterrence and incapacitation are immediate solutions. Got problems with delinquency? Simply arrest more juveniles and put them away for longer periods of time. Rehabilitation and prevention programs address the causes of delinquency, which are not always obvious. They help teens deal with parental problems, reduce child abuse, provide prenatal health care to pregnant teens, and provide counseling to kids with learning disabilities. The conventional wisdom wonders, what the heck do those things have to do with delinquency? It's much easier to assume automatically that kids do bad things because they're just bad, so they need to be punished. Spare the rod, spoil the child, and all that. Rather, learn to be comfortable with ambiguity. Solving social problems is often not clear-cut and requires actions that can be one or two causal steps away from the effect. Okay, so that's my editorial. Let's move on to the specifics of pre-re programs. Prevention and rehabilitation programs have received a good deal of attention and evaluation since the early 1990s. However, many of the evaluations do not meet standards for measuring effectiveness, experimental design, that we discussed in Chapter 19. More rigorous studies are needed. The good studies we already have need to be replicated in other areas of the country with other populations of juveniles. Of those evaluations that have reliable or at least reasonable data, 5 characteristics of effective programs have emerged. 1. Focus on the major causes of delinquency in the group being treated, individual traits, family and school problems, association with peers, etc. 2. Programs must be time-intensive. Dealing with those causes is not something that can be fixed in just a few weeks or a few counseling sessions. Programs must aim for long-term effects. 3. Focus on juveniles at high risk of delinquent behavior. This is a basic premise of public health policy. Identify those most at risk and address their problems. Then move on to those next most at risk. Okay, 4. Run pre-re programs in the community rather than in juvenile institutions. If causes of delinquency include family, school, peers, and so on, then juveniles should have opportunities to practice what they learn among their families, schools, and peers. 5, and finally, program counselors must have warm but firm relationship with juveniles. Drill sergeant behavior doesn't work, nor does coddling or making excuses for juveniles. Counselors must be compassionate but also decisive. Okay, let's talk about the early family environment. Remember, biological contributions to traits of low self-control, irritability, and low intelligence? There needs to be a focus on prenatal care, pediatric care, health and safety training for parents, especially young parents, child nutrition and hygiene, and drug and alcohol treatment for parents, especially pregnant mothers. There needs to be a focus on providing training on good parenting practices, effective discipline, communication skills, and reducing parental stress. Most hospitals and many community centers offer free parenting classes for expecting parents. Unfortunately, attendees are mostly middle class, educated, and white. Don't address the whole population. Next, let's talk about the school environment. Effective preschool programs not only introduce academics, but also teach health, hygiene, problem-solving skills, and conflict resolution. In-school programs should be designed to reduce strain by providing educational support for struggling students, influence social learning toward conventional behavior and non-delinquent activities in school and beyond school, increase direct control of troubled students by having parents monitor grades and disciplinary problems, and reduce strain by altering the classroom environment so that it is less authoritative and more interactive. Other ideas include involving all students in changing the school environment to increase a stake in conformity, increasing peer interactions to increase empathy and possibly decrease bullying, and encouraging physical activity, sports, and games as an outlet for aggression and competition. When looking at delinquent peers and gangs, implement suppression programs by police and courts. Focus on removing violent and repeat offenders from the streets. Consider laws designed to address gangs, specifically, even if not every member of a gang participated in a particular crime. Use crisis intervention programs. For example, community activists and social workers regularly patrol the streets of known gang activity. Encourage gang members and community to call these crisis intervention programs when a problem arises, and then attempt to offer solutions. Challenge rumors that often escalate into violence. Mediate disputes between gangs in so-called gang summits. And lastly, consider rehabilitation programs for former gang members that focus on job training, family and life skills, and anger management. Next, let's talk individual traits. Remember that low self-control and irritability, super traits, are made up of sub-traits like impulsivity, risk-seeking, amoral beliefs or beliefs favorable to delinquency, a tendency to become easily upset or angry, a tendency to blame one's problem on others, little concern for the feelings of others, and an aggressive or antagonistic interactional style. The types of family, school, and peer programs just discussed often address one or more of these. Parents and teachers would need to learn to recognize signs of these issues and refer children for counseling or therapy through the school, healthcare system, or community organization. One snag: who will pay for it? Will low-income, undereducated parents be able to recognize the signs? Consider that. Lastly, and this wouldn't be a sociology class without discussing this, we need to look at societal institutions. The economy, political system, health system, educational system, and so on can have a large impact on delinquency. For example, economic forces appear to be most important, providing jobs and income, reducing monetary strain. But U.S. prosperity is unfortunately not shared by all. Think about these as you read through Chapter 24. So that's it for the course. I hope you've enjoyed it. One more module's worth of work to do, including the final paper, so make sure you buckle down and hit that due date. Remember, there is no late work forgiveness during this last module. Either you hit the due date or you take a 0. So don't take a 0, make the due date. That's it for me. I'll see you online.